Is it illegal for creditors to sell your information to a collection agency? Not only is it legal, they can sell your information, they can also sell the debt, and then that collection. If you're thinking about hiring a credit repair company and somebody is promising you a certain score, run. Because nobody, and I mean nobody, can predict what your credit score is going to be. I have cars that I have not used in quite some time. Should I close them or should I leave them open? Okay, the short answer is this. You leave them open. If you close them, you will almost assuredly see your credit score drop. Should I have 3 credit cards? I get the question of how many credit cards we should have a lot. And the bottom line is this. What do I consider to be the top 5 cards for points will you spend for someone with good credit as opposed to excellent? That is a great. What is your true credit score? Well, the answer is you don't have one.
Welcome back to another episode of Important Miscellaneous Talks, where we are changing the world one podcast at a time, and we have the legendary credit professional with us here today. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, what's up, guys? Glad to be back. My name is Steve Didier. I am, like you said, I don't know, legendary. I like that. Credit professional for sure.
I try not to use the term legendary too much. I used to use it a lot because everybody I call it legendary seems to pass away, so... But I don't want that on you. Sorry to mention that, Steve. But I use the word epic now. But epic doesn't always translate directly to legendary. So,
got it. Hey, I'll take it. It sounds good. But credit professional for sure. Yep.
You should have seen your eyes when I said pass away. Describe the current state of the economy for us.
Oh man, getting right into it. Yeah, the economy. Despite what the current administration would lead us to believe, saying it's the strongest economy ever, is not. There is nothing going on in the economy right now that is good. I think they finally did say officially that we're in a recession as of the 1st of July, I think.
That I'm not sure of.
I don't know. Either way, if they haven't even officially said it, we're going to be. And by the looks of it, with all the different economic indicators and everything going on, inflation and all this stuff, it's going to be a bad one. And I think it won't be short. I think it's going to be a pretty much long, drawn out process. I think it's going to be really bad for a lot of people, which, and this is on a global scale as well.
Worse than 2008?
What's that?
Worse than 2008?
I would say yes, but in a different way, because with the upcoming recession or depression or however it ends up being labeled, I don't think real estate is going to be as impacted as it was in 2008. The real estate and the subprime market and all that was kind of the driver for 2008, whereas that's not the case now. This housing market is pretty strong. Obviously, it's slowed some, but it's still very strong. And it's always supply and demand. There's a very short supply. Builders have not been building since 2010. So there's a lot of things that indicate that the housing market is still going to do well, go up. Maybe not skyrocket. Well, definitely not skyrocket that it has, but do more of a regular increase, the 5% a year, that kind of thing. Because there's building supplies are more expensive. Inflation is killing it. There's still supply chain issues. There's a shortage of houses. So there's a lot of these things that indicate the housing market should stay strong. And if you look at, I think, the past 10 or 11 recessions, the housing only came down in 2 of those. One was 2008 and the other one was, I think, the .com crash. And the housing market didn't really get hit that hard. It did take a dip, but not that bad. So I think we're going to be in one of those situations where economically a lot of people are going to be hit really hard, but maybe the housing won't.
So how did we get here today, and what are some ways that our country can get out of it?
Well, the simple answer, and anybody who knows me knows I'm kind of anti-big government in a way, but the biggest contributing factor to the inflation and everything else that's going on right now and the upcoming crash is simply that they printed more money in the last 2 years than they did like the 10 years prior. the numbers are shocking. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but we're like $30 trillion in debt as a country. And that is going to cause inflation. You cannot print that much money and expect the dollar to hold its value. It's impossible.
And you see, I talked about that. I told people, because when we were going through the pandemic and everybody wanted their stimulus check, they said, "Well, just print more money, just print more money." I said, "No, that's so idiotic. It's not that simple. You can't just print more money." And actually, the country Zimbabwe in Africa,
Mhm.
they actually did that, and now they have $1 trillion bill because they printed so much more money that basically their dollar became worthless.
Yep. And that is, I don't want to say we're heading toward we're going to have $1 trillion bills, but that's essentially what's happening. You know what I mean? You cannot print that much money without consequences. You cannot. And because of all this stuff on a global scale, now other countries are starting to get off the petrodollar, and the dollar is not going to be the currency of the world much longer. I think we're entering a brand new era in terms of global finance, because there are other countries losing faith in the dollar. China and Russia are setting up their own systems. There are people buying oil in other currencies now instead of the dollar. So that doesn't bode well for the dollar's value in the long run either.
Other currencies such
Um, as far as what that are,
that, like you said, China and Russia are using like other currencies to purchase like natural resources.
yeah, they're setting up their own, and I'm not an economics major by anything, and I'll probably get terms wrong, but it's just a general concept. Normally oil has to be purchased in dollars. You got the petrodollar, that's like the standard. There are other countries that are going off of that, creating their own currency systems in order to exchange on a global. And I know I'm probably, any economy majors, economists, I can't even talk. Economists watching this are going to slaughter what I'm saying, but the general idea applies.
So
The dollar's not going to be the standard anymore.
So when you say the dollar, you're talking about all dollars or like just the US dollar?
Well, right now the world runs pretty much on the dollar.
On the US dollar?
What's that?
On the US dollar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So that's not going to be the case for much longer, because people are starting losing faith in the dollar, and mostly because we printed so much and we're incredibly fiscally irresponsible as a country. You can only get away with that for so long.
So that's actually because I feel as though cash is used less. So what exactly are they printing more dollars for?
Yeah, that's getting in over my head. However, they keep printing this money, and that's another thing to bear in mind, is that it's the Federal Reserve that prints the money and then loans it to the US. So the US goes in debt every time there's money printed. And it's not actually printing physical dollars, they just generate it electronically. So
okay.
If it's like anything else, if you look at certain cryptocurrencies, when there's an unlimited amount, the value of an individual crypto coin or whatever isn't much. The value comes when there's more of a finite amount. And when you start printing as much as they have, it is going to devalue the dollar. So right now they're saying inflation is what, 9% last time?
Mm-hmm.
I think that number is off, because as everybody can see, the price of gas has doubled. Price of a gallon of milk is close to doubled. There's a lot of things that are impacting people on a very basic level: food, meat, gas. They've all almost doubled. So them saying that inflation is at 9% or something, I think that's off. That's just my opinion. But even if it is, let's just say 10% for a round number. That means if you've got $10,000 in the bank next year, it's only going to be worth 9,000. Because it's devaluing by 10% every year. So you lose money by keeping it in cash or in the bank. That's why it's important to get that money into something that you can take advantage of the inflation with.
Hmm. Well, that leads me to my next question. What are some of the best ways for the average person to combat this recession?
To combat it. That's a very broad question. Let's a little bit like who specifically?
I would say the middle class.
Okay. Keeping money in the bank, savings is going to make you lose money. Now you have to have an emergency fund. You have to have some savings for sure. But historically people, just save your money, save your money, save your money, which not many people do. I think I saw a stat the other day and it's very disturbing. I can't remember. It was like over 50% of American households don't have 1 month worth of bills in reserve.
Yeah. Everyone's living check to check.
Yeah, a lot of people are. Even people who earn quite a bit of money. I saw an article on that too. Like people were making on average 250,000 a year. Like 30% of those individuals were living paycheck to paycheck or check to check.
Yeah. Well, what typically happens for people like that, since their finances increase, so does their lifestyle. So
Yes, 100%. And that's one of the best things that the average person, middle class or anybody else, can do is start tracking your spending. You've got a budget and be aware of your finances and where you're at, because if things get really, really tight and it's looking like they're going to, that's going to be one of the most important things is like, where do you trim expenses? And, a lot of people are going to stop. That's why the economy is going to slow down, because if people are not spending their money, they're not going to the movies, they're not buying extra things, and they're focusing more on, like survival things. Like, okay, food has gone up so much and gas has gone up so much. By the time we pay the rent and pay for groceries and pay for gas to work, we've only got this much left. Then that cuts down on what's being injected in the economy in terms of spending. And one of the biggest things, in the credit business, obviously we focus on credit. I'm not a financial advisor by any means, but watching what you spend, like I had a client a little bit ago and they got a brand new credit card and they're coming back, we're rebuilding, getting the negative stuff off their credit and having them rebuild. And they got a credit card, their first credit card, getting back on the board, $300 limit. So I told them, be very careful how you use this credit card, because the utilization on a credit card can impact your score in a big, big way. Anytime you go over about 25% of your limit, it starts dragging your credit score down. So a $300 card, if it reports to the bureaus, you got more than about $75 on there, it's going to start having a negative effect on your score. The higher you go, the stronger that negative effect is. So I told them specifically, use this card as a tool to build your credit. It's not free money. Just buy something you normally have been paying cash for, putting gas in your car, buying groceries, and then pay it off immediately. You don't want to carry a balance. You'd be paying these crazy interest rates. And you just want to show the banks that you're using it, paying it off in full, using it, paying it off in full, etc. And the next time we did a coaching call with them, I pulled their new credit report, and their $300 card had a $320 balance. And I started asking, like, this is not what I told you to do. Don't max this card out. Spend something small that you normally pay cash for, pay it off right away and leave it. And when I started asking what the heck they were spending on, I thought maybe it was an emergency. Maybe they had a medical thing or their car needed some work or something. They couldn't tell me what they spent it on. So then we started looking at their credit card balance, and it was just dumb shit. It was nothing that they needed. It was just, they looked at it as free money, so they spent it. And that's where people are going to have to start becoming very, very cognizant of their spending, not just for credit, but just as an overall thing. If the economy really starts to contract and people aren't making as much money, they're going to have to be hyper aware of where their money is going. So one of the things that, I'll tell people is just anytime you spend anything, write it down. Write down how much you spent, the date, and what it was. Write it down. Track every penny. And when you do that for like a month, you'll be shocked at how much money you're just pissing away on nothing that you need. So I think people are going to have to become very, very aware of their spending habits, first of all, and budget for the things that they need.
Got you. If you had to start from scratch in today's economy, or you lost everything in today's economy, what would be the first thing that you would do?
Me personally?
Yeah.
I would probably do exactly what I'm doing, what I did to pull myself out. I learned, I had a pretty good knowledge of credit. For example, after I got wiped out in the real estate crash, I lost everything, went through my depression for a while and it's just useless. And then when I started getting back on my feet, I didn't want to go into real estate. That was my skill. My knowledge was in real estate. My skill is in sales. So one thing I knew I could do is talk to people and I could sell, but I didn't want to be in real estate anymore. So as I was fixing my credit, I started really learning the game. And as I learned the rules to the credit game and I became a lot more familiar with it, I realized that was a need in the marketplace. That was a need. That was something of value that I could provide to people. So I threw myself into it and developed that skill and complemented with the sales skills that I already had and talking to people and be able to give information and answer questions and everything else. But I'm not saying everybody should go into credit, but everybody's got a certain skills or talent, whether it's carpentry or whatever it might be. Start where you're good at. That's where you can bring value to the marketplace, and that's where you can get paid. And I think if there's any one skill that is critical for people to learn if they want to make good money, is sales. Because there's always a need for salespeople. Like if you drop me off in any town in like the southern part of the US with sales skills, I could walk into a solar office and I could be making $5,000 a week within 2 weeks selling solar or alarm systems or anything. Sales are always in demand. And if you're a business owner, small business owner, where you're wearing all the hats in the company, sales are what generates the revenue. But whatever your skills are, kind of get a little bit back to your question, find out where the skills that you have can fill a need in the marketplace. And that's for somebody, even if they have a job and they need extra money, like a side hustle. Okay, figure out what you're passionate about or what you know, and you can start a side hustle around that to earn extra income while you're working your main job. Do you guys listen to Gary Vee at all?
I love Gary Vee.
Right. He's big on the retail arbitrage, and that works. I've seen people do it. I've seen people make a ton of money with that, where they find things either at garage sales and then sell it on eBay, or they find the price of stuff on Amazon, what they sell for, and then they go to discount stores like TJ Maxx, Ross, whatever. They find stuff that they know will sell on Amazon and there's a margin. They buy it all there and then turn around and sell it on eBay or Amazon or whatever. There are people making a killing on that. And you can do that at night in your spare time. If you work 9 to 5, you hit all the stores, there's a lot of things you can do, but you've got to be creative and you've really got to hustle too.
Got you.
The money's out there. The money's out there, and the money will be out there for the people who
want
it.
So there's two kinds of people who take the news of the recession differently. One person who's in despair because we're going into a recession, and another person who's excited for the kind of opportunities that a recession presents. So what are some of the ways that people can take advantage of the recession?
That's an interesting observation because it's 100% true. you know, I'm now one of those people who's got a bit of a enthusiasm for the recession. Um, and it's tempered because I know people are going to suffer,
Right.
which really sucks. And I hate to see that. But at the same time, there's opportunity. More millionaires are created during times like I saw people get flat out wealthy when the real estate market crashed of 08 because they were prepared and they could pivot and they could take advantage of what the economy brought them. I wasn't one of those people. I got crushed because I didn't pivot and I was in my own head. I got wiped out. And I wasn't having the success that I was normally used to having. And, you know, I failed. You know, I didn't make the right moves. And where I saw other people taking advantage and making literally millions and millions of dollars, I got crushed. I could have done the same thing, but I wasn't aware enough and I wasn't creative or smart enough or adaptable enough at the time mentally or experienced enough really to look at it for what it was and then say, okay, well, this is what it is. So how can we profit from this? Or how can I make the best of this? Not just make the best of it and survive, but actually turn it into a positive for me and take advantage of it financially. So that was me, but I learned from that. And with this particular upcoming recession, I feel I'm in a much better place. And I was probably in a better place financially then, to be honest, because I was making a ton of money with my real estate business. And right now, I'm not at that same level of income, but I know I've been through it before to a certain degree. And I know it's coming. I'm more aware of it, the reality of it. And right now I'm pivoting within my own business to make sure that I can take advantage of that. And by take advantage of that, obviously I'm in the credit business credit, personal credit repair, things like that. But I'm definitely at the very, very high end in terms of cost. I'm like the Nordstrom of credit repair. So there's not going to be as big a market for that in the upcoming years. So looking at that from, standing back and actually looking at it from an outside point of view, I was like, okay, well, if people aren't going to be able to afford as much as my service, I'm probably not going to make as much money. Okay, well, that's just is what it is. What can I do to take advantage of that? And by take advantage, I mean, where is there a need in the marketplace that I can provide value and help people? Because the more people that you help, the more money you're going to make.
Okay.
So what I'm doing personally is like, okay, well, the economy is going to crash. More people than ever are going to need help with their credit. More people than ever. So what I'm putting together is a low-cost credit repair solution that really focuses on, educating people on the credit game, teaching them the rules to the game, and giving them the tools to where they can repair their credit themselves and doing it at a very low cost. I don't know what that cost is going to be quite yet. I'm putting everything together, but somewhere between $150, $250, something like that. But that's something that people will be able to afford. Even during rough economic times, it will still provide an enormous value. And what I plan on doing is giving as much value as I can. Not just, okay, here's a bunch of letters, mail them all. But full-blown instructional videos, a full education course, like everything so that people are fully equipped with the knowledge of how to repair, build, and then maintain their credit.
Got you. So I think it all comes back to knowing what your skill is and then finding the need in the market.
Yeah.
And doubling down on that. Find where people, how does your need help other people?
Right. And how you can monetize, like if you follow Gary Vee as much as I do, he's always about cashing in your passion. Find your niche, find your tribe, and focus on that. Make it something that's viable. Because if you're passionate about it, you can find people who will vibe with you. And then, like you guys with this podcasting, as you keep at it and build it, can be very profitable.
For sure.
Very profitable. And it doesn't take you've got to work at it. You've got to learn the game. You've got to, put the effort in. You've got to hustle. You got to get guests. You've got to get the content. But it's not a huge financial investment. And that's a perfect example of somebody can do for a side hustle. Something they're passionate about. Get on, I don't care if you're basket weaving, get on, talk about basket weaving, bring in expert basket weavers, build your tribe. And then there will be advertisers who are going to eventually see you and pick up on you and want to, vibe with you and put their product out to your audience. And I've never podcasted before, but it's something I want to put together in the future.
Please do. You'll definitely have at least one listener.
Hey, it starts with one, man. Oh. I was watching, Brad Lee, right?
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. He's been a pretty big social media presence these days. I saw him talking recently. I was on YouTube or something, and he's got a huge social media presence now, millions of followers. When he started, he did it for like a year or two, and he was just barely trickling in the followers. He barely had any, people that were following him, and he wasn't building a solid social media fan base or anything, but he just kept at it. And then when he actually started, his whole thing was he hated creating content. I gotta create content. So he's like, you know what? I am the content. So he just had a videographer follow him around and film him while he was doing his day-to-day stuff. He's like, screw making content. I am the content. He said that's when he's just being authentic and talking and going about his day. That's when his social media following really exploded, because people were attracted to authenticity and the passion, because he wasn't trying to create content. He was just being who he was and doing his thing. And people are attracted to that. There we go.
He had to step out.
No worries.
That's very true. I've noticed that the people who do well on social media, people who do well with, having an audience, it's the authenticity that people are attracted to. The fact that they feel like you're like one of us.
Right. And that authenticity is going to rub some people the wrong way.
Oh, for sure.
And that's, love it. I love it. I get all sorts of stupid ass comments on my TikTok and Instagram, Facebook,
But even then when it rubs them the wrong way, they still might come back. Because you made them feel something. When you make them feel something, even if they show up to hate you, still showed up.
Right. Exactly. And what's really neat is the people who dislike you are the ones that are commenting and rewatching your stuff. And they're the ones who are giving you the really big boost in the algorithms and making sure your content gets out to more people. So I love it. You can't be neutral. You got, like you said it perfectly. You got to make people feel something.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're making some people feel good, then other people are going to hate you. And that's fine. No, if you don't have any haters, you aren't doing anything.
No, for real. So what would you say, where should our money be invested during these times?
I think I got to be careful with this SEC rules. I can't give investment advice. However, and I'm not a financial advisor. It's not really my area. However, as a general rule, Baron von Rothschild had a great quote once, and he said, buy when there's blood in the streets.
Explain.
So when everything is going to hell, that's when you want to be buying. Everybody's panic selling and everybody's crazy, and stocks are crashing, people are trying to get out. That's when you want to be getting in, whether it's stocks, crypto, anything like that, because it's all going to rebound.
Mm-hmm.
It's all going to come back up. So in the coming, months and years or whatever, I mean, we've already seen the stock market take a 30% hit so far this year, I think.
I mean, stocks are cheap, right?
See, that's the time to buy, because maybe they go down a little bit more. Maybe they paper up, maybe they don't do anything. But eventually, over a long period of time, they're going up. They always have. As long as you're, kind of you've got to my ex-girlfriend was a financial advisor. So I learned a lot from her. And, having those, just the regular S&P 500, the index funds, just the ones that are conservative, not necessarily conservative, but just stable. They're always going to go up over time. And then you can have some that was more speculative, and really niche stocks and things like that. But you run a little bit more risk with that. But if you invest in index funds and things like that, over time, they're always going to go up. And right now, I don't know the exact numbers, but I think the stock market has dropped like 30% since the beginning of the year. That means basically everything's 30% off. Why wouldn't you buy?
30% off is mad funny.
Yeah. So, now it might go down. Maybe it goes down another 30% or whatever. So buy more then, but you've got to realize that it's a long-term play when it comes to stocks and even crypto. I've got a real decent chunk of money tied up in crypto, and it's worth crap right now compared to what I bought in at, and the various crypto I've got. And I kind of follow that same sort of strategy with the crypto. I got some of the main ones, the blue chip type crypto. I got the Ethereums and the Bitcoin, but then I've got some more specialized one as well, that they're going to go cool, if not, whatever. But overall, I know they're all going to go up. But even though my ledger balance is down, I haven't lost because I haven't sold them. You only take the loss when you sell. The same goes with stocks. So as we watch the market crumble, that is just going to be big opportunities. Like when the pandemic hit,
mm-hmm.
I got in on some cruise ship stocks because they freaking flatlined. Norwegian and Carnival, like especially when the pandemic came out and everybody was talking about how cruise ships were all messed up and people were dying and it was spreading and all that kind of stuff. Their stocks crashed, like they flatlined. But I knew they weren't going to go anywhere, so I put some money into there and they rode them right back up. Now they're killing it again. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of taking that step back and seeing where the opportunities might be.
Got you. So one thing that we underestimate when it comes to a recession is the mental aspect of it. So what are some ways that we can keep our mental health stable?
That's a good one, and it's important. I'm a big fan of Stoicism and like the Stoic philosophers and Buddhism and things like that. And one of the biggest things with those philosophies is that just accepting what is. You can't control what's happening. As individuals, we can't control if there's a recession or not. Mm-hmm. We can only control our reactions in response to whatever happens externally. So keeping your head in the game, looking for opportunities, and not giving in to emotion that's connected with these external events is going to be key. Mm. Because if you're emotional and you get all crazy and, oh my God, the world is crashing around me, how are you going to make rational decisions and make the best moves for you and your family?
I agree. So just be focused on what you can control.
Yep, which is you, your actions. So yeah, keeping your head in the game and keeping stability emotionally, seeing what's happening. Nobody can predict 100% where nobody has a crystal ball.
Mhm.
Some things that are fairly obvious, like we're going to crash. Nobody can say how bad or how long. We're going to go down though. Inflation is going up. That's pretty predictable. And you print that much money, inflation is going to follow. It's certain things you can figure out, but nobody knows how bad it's going to get, how long it's going to last. Everybody has their theories, but it's one of those things where there's opportunities.
I think the last recession that we had, it took a toll on a lot of people to where a lot of people were committing suicide, jumping off of bridges, just doing drastic things because they thought like the world was literally ending. Of course, we got through that. So I definitely agree with you on that. It really does take a lot of mental fortitude to get through something like this.
100%. 100%. And I think a lot of people get caught up in the now and they don't realize that, life is a long game. We're playing the long game here. Hopefully. Well, we never know. But for most people, you're playing the long game, and tomorrow's going to come and the day after, and the time's going to keep on rolling, and you have to do what you have to do to get through, and it will pass.
What do you think are some ways that the average person can take advantage of the housing market during the recession?
That, that's a really good question. When you look at the average person, middle class, obviously it goes back to budgeting, making sure you're being frugal with your money and having money to take advantage of stuff. So buying stocks and things like that when they're at historic lows, that's going to be a way that you can kind of really position yourself for the long run. Buying real estate is a really good way to hedge yourself against inflation, because then you put inflation on your side. Because if you own real estate and the real price of real estate is going up and inflation is going up and rents are going up, that's going to carry you with it. Prices of housing will go up. The amount of rent that you can charge will go up. A lot of things, instead of having your money sitting in a bank, you can put it into vehicles that are going to provide cash flow each month and provide an upside in the long term in terms of tax benefits, rental income, appreciation, those kinds of things. And it doesn't have to be big, expensive houses. That's the key. A lot of people are like, oh, I can't afford to buy this house. Housing here is $400,000. Well, you don't have to buy here, wherever you're at. Like I was in Phoenix up until just a little bit ago, and housing there is expensive. I was trying to buy a house in Florida, crazy market in Florida. Las Vegas, same thing. Things are out of control. Anything in LA, New York is horrible. But there are other markets in the US. Right now, I'm looking, my strategy right now to kind of take advantage of the real estate in this recession is buying houses on the lower to lower middle end. If you go to places like Ohio, Indiana, down kind of more toward the south, there's a lot of different places. Like I'm looking at properties in Ohio, fixer uppers you can get into for 60,000, 70,000.
Wow.
Put some money into them, and then you can like my strategy is, okay, if I can pay cash for them, cool. But if there are other ones I want to pick up, I'll get a hard money loan that will also cover the rehab. Then when it's rehabbed, it will appraise at a much higher value, refinance out of it, 80% loan to be LTV, loan to value, and then rent it out. And are you cash flowing big time? No. A lot of these properties, and once I pencil them out, maybe cash flowing $350 a month, something like that. But you're also getting a lot of other benefits with that. You've got the tax benefits, you've got the possible appreciation. And if the real estate market does come down, it doesn't really matter because you're still cash flowing. The value of the house, you're not even going to lose that much on paper. If $600,000 house, if we drop 10%, you lose 60 grand. $60,000 house, you lose about 6 grand. So it doesn't matter. But if you start turning the money into more and more and picking those up and picking those up, there's a big upside to that. And it's recession proof because people always need a place to live. And if they're choosing to downsize, you know, people at the high end of the market may have a little more trouble finding renters and stuff, but because everybody's going to, oh, there's less money, I'm going to downsize in terms of rental. If they get foreclosed on, they're going to go down. So if you're looking at houses that, you know, 80 grand, 60 grand, 100 grand, 120,000 as rental properties, there's always going to be tenants. You're never going to have that house sitting empty. So for me, it's kind of a sub 300, sub 250 strategy. That's the real estate that I'm targeting and accumulating.
Okay, so focus on the cheaper houses, basically.
Yeah.
Got you.
And that's it. It's much safer and it's much easier accessibility. Like, you know, even if somebody who's looking at buying a house, you know, you can look at buying a fourplex, right? Buy a fourplex, live in one of the units, rent out the other three. Those three are going to pay your mortgage. You're essentially living rent free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that's most people, the rent is their biggest, or their mortgage payment is their biggest bill that they have. So if you can eliminate that, now you got more money to put into other assets. Weird fact, that's kind of how Arnold Schwarzenegger got his start, because he became a millionaire long before he got into acting.
Oh, wow.
Back in his bodybuilding days in Santa Monica, he bought a sixplex. You know, put together money, put a down payment on a sixplex, lived in one of the units, rented out the other five. And, you know, we all know what happened to property values in Santa Monica. As that went up and rents went up, he was able to cash flow more and more and put that into other investments. He became a very big real estate investor prior to even getting rich at acting or anything else.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways, you know, that creative ways that you can go about things like that. You can even buy a fourplex with an FHA loan. So that means it's like 3.5% down. FHA will let you go up to 4 units. You can't buy a fiveplex or above with FHA. Then you got to have investor loans. You can buy a fourplex with FHA loan. That means 3.5% down. That's much easier for people to come up with that money than it is, you know.
You need to write a book on real estate as well.
What's that?
A book on real estate.
A book on real estate.
No, I said you need to write one.
Oh, I used to be deeper in the real estate game, but I don't know. I'd have to collaborate on that. I don't know if I bring enough knowledge on the real estate market, but we'll see. You know, my personal goal is to add another 50 doors in the next 5 years.
50 doors. So that's 50 houses, right?
Yeah, like doors, like, you know, rental units, whether like a fourplex would be 4 doors. So now you got 4 properties,
okay.
Right? So that's my own personal goal in terms of real estate acquisition through this, you know, through these next times. And then, you know, if there's cash flow is great and I want to buy myself, you know, when the economy bounces back and maybe buy something a little bit more bigger and do Airbnb when the economy is a little bit better. You can cash flow really good on Airbnb, but once again, if the economy is really crashing, one of the first things that's going to go is, you know, expenses like vacations and stuff like that. People will start cutting back. So for me, I held back on that. I was going to buy a property of, you know, kind of a bigger house in Florida area, just do Airbnb on it. But now I'm backing off that a little bit. You know, I don't want to spend $600,000-700,000. It could cash flow really good if it's rented out, but it's also going to be the first one to go if the economy crashes, and then you might not rent it out and you still got that mortgage. So I don't want any part of that. I'm sticking to the lower end. It's not really that glamorous, but it's cash flow.
Exactly. Where is it most common, like state-wise, to find quadruplexes or 5-6 family homes?
They're all over. They're all over. And a lot of people, unfortunately, especially like larger cities, you're probably not going to find fourplexes in the best areas of town. So a lot of people, maybe they don't, oh, I wouldn't want to live in a fourplex or whatever. Like, well, okay, but depending on what your long-term goals and what your current economic situation is, it can be a great way to eliminate a rent payment. If you don't have rent going out, that's a big stress financially. So, pride gets in the way of a lot of people, myself included sometimes. But now I'm living in Mexico, and I'm hoping to find some cheap properties here as well, because again, most of the buyers here are American and Canadian. A lot of the buyers, because it's a big tourist area. And I saw this last crash, when all of a sudden people don't have money. They're like, okay, well, let's sell the place in Mexico. We can't afford to go there anyway, So there was deals. I had one friend of mine, he made millions because he basically bought out an entire condo project because they weren't quite finished. He made millions. He got like 35 units or something like that for next to nothing.
Wow.
So, I don't have the financial wherewithal that he did to take advantage of that, but if I can still get into some really, really good deals here, hang on to them. And then, the vacation market always bounces back.
Do you speak any Spanish at all? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Do you speak any Spanish at all?
Pretty decent. I'm a little rusty. I haven't been here for a while, so it's getting back into it has been kind of rough.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I can get by. I'm certainly not that great at it, but I can get by and handle myself. I spent 3 weeks in Colombia by myself. It was really funny. They all told me, like, speak Spanish like a freaking Mexican. I'm like, well, I kind of learned in Mexico.
That's funny.
That's funny. The Spanish is all different. It's funny.
What part of Colombia did you go to?
Barranquilla and Cartagena. That's where I spent most of the time. Next time I go, I want to go check out Medellin and probably Cali and Bogota as well.
When did you go?
Ooh. Last time I was there was, I think, 2019. So it's been a couple of years. Yeah, it's 2019. It's the year before the pandemic.
How was your experience there?
It was good. I liked it. And that's another, it's like one of those things where it was like $1 at the time equaled like 3,700 pesos, Colombian pesos. So trying to do quick math in your head on conversions was weird. I remember being at the mall and I saw a shirt that I liked and I was like, holy shit, this is like 200,000 pesos, 180,000. Oh, it's like $9.
Wow, that's crazy. So how are the women?
The women were good. It's like anything else. The ones that were, most people were pretty regular looking, but the ones that were really good looking were really good looking. Especially if you're into, Latinas. That's your thing. That's the place. That's the motherland right there.
I just booked a ticket to Medellin like 2 days ago. Going to Medellin, then Cartagena. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that.
When you going?
I'm going August 7th.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna do a few days in Medellin, a few days in Cartagena, and then hopefully Costa Rica after.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
How long total you're gonna be gone?
So probably like 12 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be killer, man.
Yeah, I'm going there to explore and for the women strictly.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who go down there for that. So be careful because those girls know.
Oh yeah, they know.
They know. I mean, you could have an amazing amount of fun for pretty cheap, but yeah, be careful because some of that Some guys that I knew got drugged and woke up in their hotel room with all their shit taken. So
Oh, nah.
Be careful,
yeah,
bro.
What?
like
Be careful.
yeah,
Watch your drinks.
watch your drinks, man. So not saying that's going to happen. I mean, I would absolutely go. I'm not saying don't go. I'm saying, an element of caution.
Crazy. Everything. Yeah. Um, so my last question would be, if you had a family to support in this economy during this recession, what would be the first thing that you would do?
Well, it really depends on,
A middle class family.
right. But honestly, it really depends on what kind of occupation are you in. You know what I mean? If you're in an occupation that is going to be recession proof, like, if you're a nurse or, the medical profession, there's always, nobody's getting laid off there. There are certain industries that, you don't have to worry about job security. So if you're in one of those, be thankful and just be frugal, especially if you got a family to support, watching your spending, like I said, tracking your budget, and just making sure that you're prepared. You got an emergency fund. And then above and beyond that, whatever money you have, I would definitely be investing, whether it's real estate or stocks or whatever. I would absolutely budget as much as I could to be putting in to, stocks. If you can't, a little scared on real estate or don't have enough to put in on that bigger chunk down payment or anything like that, then absolutely, I think this is a hugely important time to take whatever extra funds you have and be funneling them into stocks and, like, regular, like, index funds and stuff like that. Nothing too crazy, as long as, a lot of people try and get speculative, and they want to take risks and get in these stocks that, or whatever, that, if the company fails, you're just out. So going to the ones that are dropping in value, but are always going to be there. That would be kind of my thing. And, like, okay, you can budget, whether it's $400 a month or whatever, and just make sure that comes out before your luxuries, because you can really set yourself up over time. And, it's also going to be a good time. I think if you get the right side hustle, you can make a lot of extra coin on the side, and especially if you got a family to support. And if you're in a job or an industry that might be prone to layoffs or job cuts or budget cuts or things like that, you're going to have to do your best to pivot, whether it's starting a side hustle or doing something, whatever on the side to make money. And then if you lose that job, make sure that you're thinking about, okay, well, if that does happen, what's my next move? Where am I going to go? Where am I going to get a different job? As of right now, I think there's still decent amount of job openings. I don't know, but that's one of those things where if you're in an industry that's really, really susceptible to that, that's where you're most vulnerable. And that's where you're going to have to take certain steps to protect yourself. And, whatever that looks like, getting a second job, making sure you have money put away, starting a side hustle, or just making sure that you're aware that, okay, hey, I could lose my job, but what am I going to do next? Start putting a plan together before it happens, so that you can just execute instead of, oh shit, I didn't even think about this, but now I'm unemployed. What am I going to do now? Try and get a plan together in the event that it happens.
What are some of the side hustles that you would recommend?
That can be a wide range of stuff. Again, it depends on your skill set, your knowledge, your passions, things like that. Because a lot of stuff, when you start it out, is not going to be super profitable. You're going to have to grind it out sometimes. But even the Gary Vee, the retail arbitrage thing, if you learned that one skill, and learned how to sell on Amazon or garage sale and then sell it and turn it for a profit. I know people that, made a couple grand in a weekend just doing that.
Oh,
So there's a lot of different ways, and that's where it's going to be kind of creative. It's not just like a one size fits all answer. Obviously YouTube channels are really popular. If you've got a passion that you love talking about and you want to go and start a YouTube channel or a podcast or a mixture of stuff, that's a really low cost, there's not a big barrier to entry. That's going to be your knowledge, your passion, and what you want to talk about and what you can offer to that niche of people who are also interested in that one thing. There's a lot of different ways to go about it. There's no single answer for everybody. But these are things that, you want to start putting a thought into before it's too late. For somebody, it's best to start something now before, have that as a side hustle, have it fleshed out, have it, something there in the event that something happens to your main job. Or if you have to take a pay cut or go to a different job or something like that. Like I was telling Glassman before, while you were offline, I'm pivoting myself right now because I really think that over the next year or two, my credit repair business as it is going to suffer because it's very high ticket. So I'm expecting a significant drop in revenues over the coming year, just because people aren't going to probably have the extra money to afford what I do because I'm very expensive. But there's going to be more of a need for it than ever. So what I've been formulating with, okay, I'm trying to stay ahead of things. So I'm like, okay, the next year, I think things are going to get pretty bad, but there's still going to be a need for my particular skill, which is credit repair and credit education. So I'm putting together that product that will provide an enormous amount of value to people in terms of education and the tools to fix their own credit, and then the knowledge to rebuild and maintain credit. But I'm gonna put it together at a very, very low price point. Whatever that ends up being, I don't know. It's gonna be somewhere 150, 250, something like that. So it will provide people more value than any other do-it-yourself credit repair product on the market. Because I've already got the education part of it completely shot. There's like 3 hours of solid video content and education, and I'm gonna package a lot into this thing that, and I bring years of experience and knowledge to the table, and I can explain it in a way that makes sense and people are easy enough to grab. So I have a ton of education. There's gonna be instructional videos. There's gonna be download the most cutting edge stuff to get stuff off the credit. There's gonna just be so much. Plus I'm gonna offer, webinars and Q&As and different things like that for people who are in there. So my goal is to provide as much value and help people as much as I can, but at a much lower price point to where I can reach more people and help more people. That in turn will bring more money because the numbers are there. Even if it's $150, you sell 10 of those a day, life is pretty good.
exactly.
Now you're looking at 45,000 a month, something like that. And that's a pretty much autopilot anyway, since people buy it online, they have access to it, and there's not a lot involved on my part in terms, like right now I'm on the phone all day coaching people and doing consultations, and I'm busy. You see my calendar today, it's just solid. I just had to postpone my 3 o'clock, you know what I mean? So for me, it is both pivoting and adapting to the new economy that I feel is coming up, but it's also adding another income stream that I don't have to grind out. It's going to be a grind getting it set up and implemented. After that, it should be relatively passive income. But most of what I'm going to be doing, I'll probably have some Facebook advertising or Instagram ads and stuff like that, but most of it is going to be me putting out the social media content, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, all that, and using that as a YouTube. I'm going to start really firing up the YouTube channel and probably a podcast at some point, and then bringing that all together so people can get, I'm gonna have a short free course on how to improve your credit, and then the cheaper credit repair package, and then the more kind of VIP one. So there'll be something for everybody.
Genius.
That's what I'm doing personally to kind of pivot and anticipate what the market might be doing. Because if I just stayed doing the exact same thing that I am doing now, a year from now, I'd probably be hurt.
Yeah, you're adjusting with the times.
Yeah. Which is what I did not do in 2008.
Why is that?
Because I was a dumbass. No, honestly, it's just experience. Nobody thought, I didn't think the market was going to, I was in denial. I didn't think the market was going to crash like that. I didn't think that things were going to go that bad. And I figured I could sell my way out of anything. So it's partially ego, partially denial on actually seeing what was happening. So there's a lot of reasons, but experience is one too. So I've been through hard recessions now, so I can see the telltale signs of what's coming up. So I'm starting in advance to prepare and adapt and pivot so that I'm not caught up in one of those people who's wiped out this time.
You're a smart man, Steve.
I just took my lumps. That's all. I try not to take the same lesson twice.
You're a smart man for that, for sure.
Well, I'm kind of slow sometimes, but man, I got my ass kicked. I remember it very, very vividly. So I just don't want to go through that again.
I appreciate you so much for taking the time out. Of course, always learn something when we're talking to Steve, man.
Mine too, man. We'll do this again, man. I love it. I love this podcast. I think you guys are doing good work and bringing out education that is much needed. So, man, anytime, happy to pitch in. If you ever have any questions, obviously you can reach out to me anytime as well.
Thank you.